Syngman Rhee. Syngman Rhee was the very first president of South Korea, running the country from 1948 to 1960. He helped set up the new South Korean government after the end of Japanese rule, and during the early Cold War, he was super anti-communist. Backed by the United States, Rhee came to power with a tough stance against North Korea. When the Korean War kicked off in 1950, he pushed hard for military action to try and reunify Korea under the South. He also worked closely with the US, depending a lot on their support both militarily and economically. At home, though, things got pretty rough under his rule. Rhee became more and more authoritarian. He rigged elections, silenced critics, and made sure he stayed in power by changing the rules when it suited him. The media was censored, and anyone who spoke out could expect trouble from the police. By 1960, people had enough. Anger over corruption and vote rigging sparked the April Revolution, a huge wave of protests that forced Rhee to step down. He ended up going into exile in Hawaii, where he lived until he died in 1965. Yoon Po-seun. Yoon Po-seun was the second president of South Korea, serving from 1960 to 1962. Educated at the University of Edinburgh, he believed strongly in democracy and integrity. After the fall of Syngman Rhee, he became president during the short-lived Second Republic, but real power lay with the prime minister. When Park Chung-hee seized power in 1961, Yoon resigned in protest and later spent his life opposing dictatorship and supporting democracy. Park Chung-hee. He seized power through a military coup in 1961 and later became president, leading South Korea's rapid industrialization and modernization. Under his rule, the country transformed from a poor, war-torn nation into one of Asia's fastest-growing economies. However, his government was also authoritarian, restricting political freedoms and suppressing opposition. He was assassinated in 1979 by his own intelligence chief, marking the end of his 18-year rule. Choi Kyu-ha. Choi Kyu-ha was the fourth president of South Korea, serving from 1979 to 1980. He became acting president after Park's assassination in 1979. Choi promised democratic reforms, but his leadership was weak. In December 1979, General Chun Doo-hwan staged another coup, effectively taking control of the government. Under pressure, Choi resigned in August 1980. Chun Doo-hwan, a former army general, he seized power through a military coup in December 1979 after Park Chung-hee's death. Chun imposed martial law and brutally suppressed the Gwangju Uprising in 1980. Facing growing public pressure for reform, he eventually agreed to hold democratic elections in 1987 and stepped down the following year. Later, he was convicted for his role in the coup and Gwangju massacre, but was pardoned in 1997. Roh Tae-woo. Roh Tae-woo was the sixth president of South Korea, serving from 1988 to 1993. His government focused on political reform, anti-corruption efforts, and improving relations with North Korea and other communist countries, known as the Nordpolitik policy. Kim Young-sam. Kim Young-sam was the seventh president of South Korea, serving from 1993 to 1998. He was the first civilian president after decades of military rule. Kim introduced major democratic and anti-corruption reforms. His government also pushed for economic modernization, but the 1997 Asian financial crisis severely hurt the economy near the end of his term. Kim Dae-jung. Kim Dae-jung was the eighth president of South Korea, serving from 1998 to 2003. As president, he led the country's recovery from the Asian financial crisis and launched the Sunshine Policy to improve relations with North Korea. For his efforts toward peace, he received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2000. Roh Moo-hyun. Roh Moo-hyun was the ninth president of South Korea, serving from 2003 to 2008. A former human rights lawyer from a poor background, he continued the Sunshine Policy toward North Korea, promoting dialogue and cooperation. After leaving office, he faced a corruption investigation and tragically killed himself in 2009. Lee Myung-bak. Lee Myung-bak was the 10th president of South Korea, serving from 2008 to 2013. A former businessman and mayor of Seoul, he focused on economic growth, infrastructure, and global trade. After leaving office, he was later convicted of bribery and embezzlement, serving prison time before receiving a pardon. Park Geun-hye. Park Geun-hye was the 11th president of South Korea and the first woman to hold the office, serving from 2013 to 2017. She is the daughter of former President Park Chung-hee. Her government focused on security against North Korea, but her presidency ended in scandal after a major corruption case. She was impeached and removed from office in 2017, later sentenced to prison, but pardoned in 2021. Moon Jae-in. Moon Jae-in was the 12th president of South Korea, serving from 2017 to 2022. His early popularity was high, but later declined due to economic issues and housing crises. He left office in 2022. Yoon Suk-yeol. Yoon Suk-yeol was the 13th president of South Korea, serving from 2022 until his impeachment in 2025. He took a tough stance on North Korea and strengthened ties with the US and Japan. His rule became controversial after a martial law crisis, leading to his removal from office. Lee Jae-myung. Lee Jae-myung is the current president of South Korea, taking office in June 2025 after Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached. He promised to fix the economy and reduce corruption. He also wants a more balanced approach in foreign policy, keeping good ties with both the US and neighbors like China and Japan. Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung was the guy who basically started North Korea. Born in 1912, he got involved early on in fighting against Japanese rule over Korea. After World War II, Korea got split in two, and with help from the Soviet Union, Kim took charge of the North in 1948. In 1950, he launched the Korean War, hoping to take over the South and unite the whole peninsula under his rule. It didn't work out. Things ended in 1953 with a ceasefire, so technically North and South Korea are still at war. Kim ran the country with an iron grip. He pushed a philosophy called Juche, which is all about being self-reliant, and built up a serious cult of personality around himself. Everything was super controlled. Media, the economy, and pretty much all aspects of life were under the state's thumb. The military came first, and personal freedoms weren't really a thing. When he died in 1994, his son Kim Jong-il took over, kicking off the family dynasty that still runs North Korea today. Even now, Kim Il-sung is treated like a godlike figure there. They even call him the Eternal President. Kim Jong-il was the supreme leader of North Korea from 1994 until his death in 2011. He succeeded his father, Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea, and continued his father's authoritarian rule. During Kim Jong-il's leadership, North Korea faced severe economic difficulties, including famine and widespread poverty, while the regime maintained strict control over all aspects of society. The country also faced international isolation due to its nuclear ambitions and human rights abuses. Kim Jong-il's leadership style was characterized by a cult of personality, with propaganda promoting him as a near-divine figure. He also pursued a military-first policy, prioritizing the military over other sectors of society. Kim Jong-il's death in 2011 led to his son Kim Jong-un assuming power, continuing the family's dynastic rule over North Korea. Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un, the current supreme leader of North Korea, is widely regarded as a dictator due to his absolute control over the country and the repressive nature of his regime. Kim Jong-un's dictatorship is characterized by several key factors. Firstly, he exercises complete control over the political, economic, and social life of North Korea. The country operates under a totalitarian system, where dissent is not tolerated, and any opposition to the regime is met with harsh punishment. Secondly, Kim Jong-un maintains his grip on power through a cult of personality that has been cultivated around him and his family. He is portrayed as a benevolent and wise leader, with his image being prominently displayed across the country. The regime uses propaganda and censorship to control the flow of information and ensure that Kim Jong-un is seen as infallible. Kim Jong-un's aggressive pursuit of nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles has also contributed to his negative image. His regime has conducted several nuclear tests and has repeatedly threatened its neighbors with nuclear strikes, leading to increased tensions in the region.